Georgia Jenkins stands at a street corner in Charleston, South Carolina. 1865. She's frying chicken, making pies, selling rice and okra stew to travelers at the train depot. But she's not just cooking, she's running a business. She's feeding her family, and she's doing something that terrifies white Charleston. She's making freedom money. The recipes she's perfecting, they've been in her family for generations, passed down from her grandmother, who was stolen from West Africa. But in 50 years, a white woman will publish those same recipes under her name. In Georgia, she'll be erased completely. They stole our recipes. Then they pretended we didn't exist. Then they had the nerve to call it Southern tradition, as if the South was a place, not a crime scene. This isn't about food. This is about the systematic theft of black genius, the erasure of black labor, and the whitewashing of black excellence. You'll see the direct line from West African kitchens to Southern plantations to corporate boardrooms. You'll understand the 5-step playbook they use to steal culinary genius and sell it back to us without credit. And you'll meet the people fighting right now to take back what was always theirs. This isn't just about who invented fried chicken. This is about intellectual property theft on a scale so massive, we're still eating the evidence. Welcome to the crime scene. Let's start with what they stole and who they stole it from. Let's go back, way back, before America, before plantations, before the word Southern food even existed. West Africa, Senegal, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. For centuries before European contact, people here had developed some of the most sophisticated culinary systems on earth. They weren't just cooking, they were scientists. They understood fermentation. They knew how to fry food in palm oil at exact temperatures to create that perfect crust. They cultivated rice in complex irrigation systems that required generational knowledge to maintain. In the Senegambia region, rice wasn't just a crop. It was engineering. Women passed down the knowledge of tidal rice cultivation, reading water patterns, timing floods, maximizing yields. This was hundreds of years of accumulated agricultural science, and then they were stolen. Enslaved people were stripped of everything, their names, their freedom, their families, but they couldn't take their knowledge. They brought okra seeds in their hair. They remembered the ratios of spices. They knew how to make something extraordinary out of scraps because they'd been doing it with abundance for generations. This wasn't instinct. This wasn't natural talent. This was technology. Culinary technology that predated anything happening in European kitchens. So when we talk about Southern food, we're not talking about something that spontaneously appeared in Georgia or Virginia. We're talking about West African cuisine cooked under enslavement, stripped of its original names, and rebranded. Now here's where it gets interesting. The people we give credit to for Southern cuisine, the Thomas Jeffersons, the George Washingtons, the plantation mistresses writing cookbooks, they didn't know how to cook. Thomas Jefferson, founding father, Epicurean. Food obsessive, couldn't boil water. Everything he's famous for eating, cooked by enslaved hands. James Hemings, Jefferson's enslaved chef, was trained in France. He spoke French. He mastered classical French technique. He created what we now call mac and cheese, and Jefferson owned him. James Hemings negotiated his freedom by training his brother to replace him. Think about that. He had to train his replacement just to stop being property. That's not a feel-good story. That's a hostage negotiation. George Washington, Hercules Posey, Martha Washington, doll, while Hercules ran the kitchen. Mary Randolph, author of The Virginia Housewife, dozens of unnamed enslaved cooks. These people writing about food, they were just good at sitting down when it was ready. The enslaved cooks were running entire kitchens, planning menus, managing supplies, training younger cooks, coordinating multi-course meals for hundreds of guests. But their names, nowhere. 730 to 1500. So how does an entire cuisine get stolen? It's not usually one big heist. It's a system, a pattern that's been repeated for 400 years. Let me break down the 5 steps. Step 1, proximity and forced labor. First, there's proximity and forced labor. Enslavers don't see this as intellectual property theft because they don't see enslaved people as intellectuals. They see them as tools, appliances. There's no credit because in their minds, there's no creator, just a process. But here's the trick. They're eating the evidence of genius every single day. They know this food is extraordinary. They brag about it to visitors. They write letters about their amazing cooks. But the moment someone asks for a recipe, suddenly it's their family secret, Historical example. In 1847, a plantation mistress in Virginia writes to her sister, "Our cook makes the most divine fricasseed chicken. I simply must share the recipe with you." The recipe gets written down. The cook's name, not mentioned once. This is happening right now. A white food blogger goes to a black grandmother's restaurant, tastes her gumbo, goes home, and posts my gumbo recipe to 400,000 followers. Grandma gets zero credit, zero money, zero attribution. Step 1 complete. Step 2. Sanitization and elevation. Step 2, sanitization. This is where the dish gets elevated. That's the word they love, elevated. But what does that really mean? It means white. It means removing cultural context. It means making it acceptable for white audiences by stripping away anything that screams, "This is black food." You take fried chicken, a dish perfected by enslaved West African cooks who understood oil temperature and spice blends, and you serve it on fine china instead of at a street cart. Suddenly, it's rustic Southern charm instead of slave food. Historical example, in the 1880s, white-owned restaurants in cities like Richmond and New Orleans start serving Southern fried chicken to wealthy diners. They charge premium prices. The black women who've been selling fried chicken on street corners for decades, they're being pushed out by new health codes and business licensing laws designed specifically to exclude them. This is happening right now. A celebrity chef with a TV show publishes a book called My Southern Table. Every recipe is from black culinary tradition: gumbo, jambalaya, etouffee, cornbread. Not a single black chef credited, not one. Meanwhile, black chefs who've been making these dishes their entire lives can't get book deals. Step 3, mass dissemination without attribution. Once the dish is sanitized, it gets published. Cookbooks, magazines, newspapers, and later TV shows, cooking competitions, food blogs, Instagram. But here's the thing about publishing in America. For most of our history, black people were legally banned from it. Enslaved people couldn't legally read or write. After emancipation, Jim Crow laws kept black people out of publishing houses, out of culinary schools, out of professional kitchens. So when recipes started getting written down and distributed, whose names ended up on them? Historical example. Mary Randolph's The Virginia Housewife, published in 1824. It's considered one of the first regional American cookbooks. It's full of recipes clearly developed by enslaved cooks. Okra soup, fried chicken, Hoppin' John, sweet potato pudding. Mary Randolph's name is on the cover. The actual cooks? Invisible. This is happening right now. Walk into any bookstore. Go to the Southern cooking section. Count how many authors are black. Now count how many recipes come from black culinary tradition. The math doesn't math. Step 3 complete. Step 4, commercialization and celebrity. Once the food is in the mainstream, it's time to make money. Real money, franchise money, empire money. And this is where the original creators get completely priced out. Let's talk about fried chicken. For decades, black women have been frying and selling chicken at train depots, on street corners, at their homes, building customer bases, perfecting recipes, making actual money. Then comes Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders did not invent fried chicken. Let's be very clear. He did not invent the recipe. He did not invent the technique. He did not invent the business model of selling fried chicken to travelers. He invented the bucket, and he owned the trademark. Historical example, in the 1930s and 40s, before Sanders' franchise took off, there were thousands of black-owned fried chicken businesses across the South. Small operations, yes, but profitable, respected, feeding their communities. By the 1970s, most of them were gone. Why? They couldn't compete with a franchise backed by white capital, white investors, and white access to prime real estate. This is happening right now. Turn on the Food Network. Count how many white chefs have shows dedicated to Southern cooking or comfort food or BBQ. Now count how many black chefs get that platform. Meanwhile, black chefs making the same food are stuck doing brunch pop-ups and begging for investors. Step 4, complete. Sericide. Step 5, the ugliest step, criminalization and erasure. So what do you do when black people are still succeeding despite everything? When they're still selling food, still building businesses, still feeding their communities and making money? You make it illegal. In the early 1900s, cities across the South start passing health codes and vending regulations. On paper, they're about food safety. In practice, they're about shutting down black businesses. Suddenly, you need a brick and mortar kitchen to sell food. You need expensive licenses. You need permits that require literacy tests and character references from white citizens. You need insurance that no black person can afford. And if you keep selling anyway, you get arrested. Historical example, after the Atlanta race riot of 1906, a white supremacist massacre of black Atlanta residents, the city cracks down hard on black economic independence. Street vending gets heavily restricted. Black-owned restaurants face constant inspections that white-owned establishments don't. Within a decade, the thriving black food economy in Atlanta is decimated. This is happening right now. Black food truck owners face health inspections at triple the rate of white owners in the same cities. They get denied permits for prime locations. They get hit with fines for violations that white-owned trucks get warnings for. And when they do succeed, when they build something despite all this, they're told they're gentrifying their own neighborhoods. Step 5 complete. 5 steps: proximity and forced labor, sanitization and elevation, mass dissemination without attribution, commercialization and celebrity, criminalization and erasure. That's the playbook, and it's been running on repeat for 400 years. Now let me give you specific examples, because this isn't theory. This is documented, provable, receipts on the table theft. Let's start with the most obvious one: fried chicken. For generations, West Africans had been frying food in palm oil. They brought that knowledge to America. Enslaved cooks took chickens, often the only meat they had access to, and turned them into something extraordinary. They perfected the brine, the spice blend, the oil temperature, the timing. This wasn't accident, this was expertise. After emancipation, black women turned that expertise into business. They sold fried chicken at train depots across the South. Travelers called them waiter carriers. They'd wrap chicken in cloth, sell it through train windows, build regular customer bases. The fried chicken sold by Negro women at the Gordonsville station is the talk of all Virginia. I have never tasted better. Travel diary, 1893. These women were making good money, enough to buy property, send kids to school, build generational wealth. Then the theft starts. The 1930s. White-owned restaurants start featuring Southern fried chicken on menus. They charge premium prices. They hire white waitresses. The chicken recipe copied directly from black cooks, sometimes even hiring them as kitchen staff while crediting the white owner. 1952, Harlan Sanders starts franchising Kentucky Fried Chicken. His secret recipe, 11 herbs and spices that had been used for a century. He didn't invent anything. He franchised what was already there. Meanwhile, the black women who'd been selling fried chicken for generations, driven out of business, health codes, licensing fees, competition from chains with white capital. By the 1970s, most of those businesses were gone. Today, the fried chicken industry is worth billions, plural, with a B. The descendants of the women who actually invented the recipes, they're working in those chains for minimum wage. Case study 2, gumbo. Gumbo isn't just a soup, it's a document, a historical record of the African diaspora cooked into a single pot. Okra, from West Africa. The word gumbo comes from King Gombo, the word for okra in some West African languages. The technique of thickening stews with okra or ground sassafras filet, West African and Native American. The Holy Trinity, onion, celery, bell pepper, French influence, but the layering technique, African. Gumbo is fusion cuisine created by enslaved people who had to cook for their enslavers while also feeding themselves with whatever they could grow, catch, or trade with indigenous people. This is culinary genius under constraint. For decades, gumbo was sold on the streets of New Orleans by black women. They were famous for it. Locals knew whose cart had the best shrimp gumbo, whose had the best chicken and sausage. The gumbo women of New Orleans are an institution. Each has her own secret method handed down through families. New Orleans Daily Picayune, 1880. Then white-owned restaurants start serving it. They call it Creole cuisine, a deliberate move to distance the food from its black creators. Creole sounds exotic, sophisticated, European. African or black doesn't sell to white diners. Meanwhile, today, white chefs win James Beard Awards for gumbo. They get profiled in magazines. They open $50 a plate restaurants serving their version of gumbo. The black grandmothers who've been making gumbo from memory for 70 years, nobody's writing about them. Case study 3. Rice cultivation in Carolina gold. Case study 3 piece. This one's important because it's not just about a recipe, it's about agricultural technology. The Senegambia region of West Africa had cultivated rice for 3,000 years. Continue. 4:05 p.m. before European contact, 3,000. They developed complex irrigation systems, tidal rice cultivation, seed selection techniques. This was science. Engineering, passed down through generations of women who were the primary cultivators. When colonizers in South Carolina and Georgia tried to grow rice, they failed miserably. The climate was similar to West Africa, but they didn't know the technique. So what did they do? They specifically targeted enslaved people from rice-growing regions of West Africa. They literally kidnapped people based on their agricultural expertise. Gold Coast or Gambia Negroes preferred, as they are better acquainted with rice cultivation. South Carolina newspaper ad, 1756. Carolina gold rice, the rice that made white plantation owners obscenely wealthy, was grown using West African methods by West African people who were enslaved specifically for that knowledge. The rice industry in South Carolina was worth millions in the 1700s and 1800s. Adjusted for inflation, billions. Every single grain of that rice was planted, cultivated, and harvested by people who owned none of the profit. Pause, let it breathe. Stolen knowledge, stolen labor, stolen wealth. Meanwhile, today, Carolina gold rice is marketed as heritage cuisine. White chefs win awards for reviving it. Food magazines write long features about the history of Carolina rice. Pause pointed. They mention enslaved labor in like one sentence. As a footnote, Case Study 4, barbecue. Case Study 4, barbecue. The word barbecue comes from barbacoa, a Caribbean Taino word for a method of slow cooking meat over a fire pit. When enslaved Africans and indigenous people encountered each other in the Americas, they merged techniques. Enslaved people were the primary pit masters on plantations. They did the grueling, skilled work of maintaining fire temperatures for hours, sometimes days, to smoke whole hogs. This wasn't just throwing meat on a grill. This was temperature control, wood selection, timing, seasoning. You had to know what you were doing. But when barbecue became a commercial industry in the early 1900s, whose names ended up on the restaurants? You already know. Here's the thing. Black pitmasters were so good that even during Jim Crow, white people had to hire them. Political rallies, big events, weddings. If you wanted the barbecue to be right, you hired a black pitmaster. But you didn't put his name on the sign. Meanwhile, today, barbecue competitions and TV shows are dominated by white pitmasters. They write books, they get endorsement deals, they become celebrities. The black pitmasters who've been doing this their entire lives, still cooking in small towns, still serving their communities, still invisible to the mainstream food world. Section 4, systemic analysis, 25 minutes to 30 minutes. So if the theft is this obvious, this documented, this provable, why can't we just sue? Long pause. The answer? Our legal and economic systems are almost perfectly designed to protect this kind of theft. The legal failure. Let's talk about intellectual property law. In America, you can copyright a written recipe. You can patent a specific food processing method. You can trademark a brand name. But you cannot protect traditional knowledge passed down orally through generations. So if your grandmother taught you to make gumbo, and her grandmother taught her, and it goes back 10 generations, none of that is legally protectable. Anyone can take that recipe, write it down, publish it, and own the copyright. Pause, let the injustice sit. The law, in its supposed neutrality, sides with the powerful by default. And here's the kicker. For most of American history, black people were legally barred from the systems that would allow them to protect their work. Can't read, can't write, can't access publishers or lawyers or courts, then you can't copyright your recipe, and someone else will. This is still happening. Right now, someone can go to a black family reunion, taste Auntie's potato salad, go home, post the recipe on their blog, and monetize it with ads. Legally, there is no legal recourse. The economic mechanism. Now let's talk about money. Even when black people do create food businesses, they face systemic barriers that white business owners don't. Black entrepreneurs are denied bank loans at twice the rate of white entrepreneurs with identical credit scores and business plans. Twice. That's not opinion. That's Federal Reserve data. So even if you have the recipe, the skill, and the customer base, you can't get the capital to scale. You're stuck small, local, operating on razor-thin margins. Meanwhile, a white chef can take your recipe, get a $500,000 small business loan, open a restaurant, hire PR, get media coverage, and franchise within 5 years. This creates a cycle. Black people create, white people capitalize. Black people stay local. White people go national. Black people work in kitchens. White people own the kitchens. And the wealth? It never circulates back. The psychological wound. But beyond the money, beyond the legal failures, there's something else happening, something harder to measure but just as damaging. Pause softly. The psychological wound. When you grow up seeing the food from your culture everywhere, on TV, in restaurants, in cookbooks, but you never see people who look like you getting credit for it, it tells you something. It's a quiet, constant message that says your culture is valuable, your people are not. Your recipes are worth stealing, you are not worth crediting. Pause, let the weight sit. That's not abstract, that's trauma. That's internalized erasure happening every time someone praises Southern comfort food without knowing or caring who made it. And when Black chefs do try to reclaim this food, they're told they're being divisive or playing the race card, as if asking for credit for your own culture is somehow unreasonable. That's the genius of the theft. They steal the culture, then gaslight you for pointing it out. Section 5, Linguistic Deconstruction, 30 minutes to 32 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's talk about language, because the way we talk about food is how we hide who created it. Elevated. Elevated. You hear this all the time. This chef elevates Southern cuisine. Pause pointed. But what does elevated really mean? It means this food was low until a white chef made it high. It means the food itself was insufficient until someone with proper training fixed it. But here's the thing, the food was already excellent. Elevated is code for whiteified, authentic, another favorite. This restaurant serves authentic Southern food. Authentic according to who? Usually, authentic means approved by white tastemakers, because when Black people make the food, it's just home cooking or soul food. But when a white chef makes the same food, suddenly it's authentic Southern cuisine. Who decides authenticity? Who has the power to say this counts, this doesn't? Traditional. Traditional, as in traditional Southern recipes. Pause, sardonic. Traditional to whom? Traditional erases the origin. It makes the food seem like it just spontaneously appeared in the South. No creators, no context, just tradition. But tradition isn't neutral. It's a story about who gets remembered. And in the American South, tradition almost always means white version of Black creation. Section 6, Contemporary Manifestations, 32, 30 to 3500. This isn't just history. This is happening right now, today, this year, this month. Social media theft. A white food influencer with 2 million followers makes a video. My collard greens recipe. She got the recipe from her Black housekeeper. She doesn't mention that. She gets 800,000 views, brand deals, a cookbook offer. Meanwhile, a Black creator posts the same recipe with family history and cultural context. 5,000 views, no sponsorships, no book deal. The algorithm isn't neutral. The industry isn't neutral. Restaurant industry. A white chef opens a restaurant in Brooklyn called Southern Comfort. The menu, shrimp and grits, fried chicken, cornbread, collard greens. Every recipe is from Black culinary tradition. The chef gets a New York Times review, 3 stars. He's called innovative. Meanwhile, a Black-owned soul food restaurant 10 blocks away, making the same food their grandmother made, can't get press, can't get investors, struggling to stay open. Same food, different outcome. Cooking competitions. Make your best Southern dish. White contestant makes fried chicken with a twist. Wins. Black contestant makes the same fried chicken their families made for generations. Too traditional. Eliminated. The rules are rigged. Innovation is only valued when white people do it. Tradition is only respected when white people claim it. But here's the thing about truth. They can try to erase us, but they can't erase the truth. And a powerful movement is rising. Meet Mashama Bailey, award-winning chef, owner of The Gray in Savannah, Georgia. She's not just cooking Southern food, she's documenting it. Every dish on her menu comes with context, where it came from, who created it, why it matters. She's bypassing the gatekeepers. She's forcing people to see that this food has names attached, histories, people. Meet Dr. Jessica B. Harris, food historian, author, scholar. For 50 years, she's been documenting the African roots of American cuisine. She's written 12 books. She's taught generations of chefs and historians. She's building an archive that can't be erased. And now, projects like High on the Hog on Netflix are bringing these stories to millions of people, showing the world what's been hidden. Meet the Black farmers reclaiming land and agriculture. After decades of being pushed off farmland through racist lending practices and USDA discrimination, Black farmers are fighting back. Leah Penniman, Soulfire Farm, She's not just growing food, she's teaching the next generation of Black farmers. She's training people in traditional African growing techniques that were nearly lost. Every seed planted is an act of resistance. And across the country, Black-owned food businesses are thriving, despite the barriers. They're using social media to bypass traditional gatekeepers. They're building direct-to-consumer brands. They're crowdfunding instead of begging banks for loans. They're not asking for permission. They're building empires on their own terms. They stole our recipes. They sanitized our culture. They built empires on our genius while pretending we were ghosts. But the flavor doesn't lie. The memory in the food is stronger than their fiction. Every time you cook your grandmother's recipe, you're preserving something they tried to erase. Every time you tell the story of where the food came from, you're fighting back. Every time you support a Black-owned restaurant or food business, you're redirecting wealth back where it belongs. So here's what you can do. Support Black-owned restaurants. Don't just eat there once for Black History Month. Make them part of your regular rotation. Buy cookbooks by Black authors. Read the histories. Learn the names. Share this knowledge. When someone praises Southern food, tell them who actually created it. Push back on erasure. When you see a white chef getting credit for a Black recipe, call it out. Politely, but firmly. And most importantly, never let anyone tell you that food is just food. Food is memory, food is labor, food is power. And this fight isn't just about who invented fried chicken, it's about the fundamental right to be recognized for your own genius. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. We're reading every one. And tell me, what's one recipe from your family's history that tells a story they don't teach in school? Let's build this archive together.